Teachers of ridiculous. What is the worst case of helicopter parenting you have ever encountered? Not a teacher, but I work in a university tech support office. Every year we have a few students who don't know their passwords and have to call mom or dad. Also, the parents who have monitoring software and so on trying to lock down their adult, 18, child's computer. Yup, when I was student assistant I worked in our university's help desk. Every so often a parent would call in and I would have to ask them to put the kid on the phone. Most of the time the kid wasn't even at the house or it was a can't I just do it type thing. Last summer, when I was out with some of my family, I asked my younger cousin if he wanted to go to a movie that evening and recommended that we see The Dark Knight Rising. He was very excited until his mother looked at me and asked me if there was a lot of violence in the movie. I explained that there was some but more like comic book violence and not blood and guts. She seemed reluctant and we headed off to the movie. This would be a fairly normal question except that my younger cousin at the time was 19 years old. I hope you had a talk with your cousin. Former university freshman orientation program staff here. The program I worked for had an overnight component that required the students attending the orientation session. We had several different ones to accommodate the sheer number of students, to stay overnight and room with other students. I was the staff member on call that night, and around 2:30 AM I received a call on my duty phone from a couple different students saying there was a suspicious individual circling the building trying to look for a way to get it. I called the university police department, and when we checked it out it ended up being a parent wanting to come and check on her student to make sure that they were okay and that the first day of orientation wasn't too hard on their student. I think as a close second was the mother who flipped her crap when I told her she was not allowed to sit in on her son's advising session and threatened to start screaming debauchery in the middle of our advising center. So there's that too. My mom went to freshman orientation at my brother's university years ago. She said they asked if anyone had questions and one mom stood up and asked how they keep the boys and girls apart in the dorms. The student leading orientation just said, well, we try to treat them like adults here. I work at a university help desk for students, so I'm regularly subjected to helicopter parenting. The worst I've ever seen though was a student that walked in behind his mom and dad, neither him nor the dad saying a word. The mother said, "Are you hiring? We'd like to get our son a job here." After a few seconds of disbelief, I told them how to apply for jobs on campus. The mother then walked out and the two guys followed her a few steps behind. I really felt bad for the student and the husband. Several years ago as chair of my department at a university, I had a couple of parents in my office complaining about a mean professor who worked for me. The problem was that he dared to fail their precious gifted daughter and this was going to ruin her chances of getting into medical school. I talked to him and he showed me her grades, and sure enough she deserved to fail. Why? Because her parents had sheltered her and told her how smart she was, and apparently all her teachers too. And she never had to actually be smart until college. I refused to change the grade. She appealed to the dean and then to the provost who, coward that he was, gave in to the parental demands. By the way, she never got into med school. Surprise, surprise. I would have loved to see her get in, get out and then have mommy standing next to her while she operated on patients. Oh, don't mind me. This is my gift from goddaughter. You are so lucky to have her working on you and I'll just be here watching. Finally, if anyone out there is a helicopter parent, stop that crap. You are ruining your flipping children and making them brain dead, dependent parasites. One of my college students, probably a junior, had her mother email me about making up a missed assignment. A 21-year-old had her mommy try to make me do something. I hang out with my old high school teachers, and they love to tell me about Bob's dad who was in the same grade as I, just different class periods. Apparently, Bob's dad thinks Bob is the best and smartest person in the world. Also Bob's dad is some type of IBM engineer and his mom is a lawyer. Everyone sucked up to them. When Bob made a B, his dad shows up, cusses out my old history teacher, tells her he will have her fired because his son needs amazing grades. My teacher tells him that's the grade he got for the work he did. So old man complains to the office and has his son enrolled in an online class where teachers actually work. He also forced a math teacher to quit after she gave Bob a C. He went to the office daily and complained about her ruining Bob's future. She got fed up and is now teaching at a university. Apparently, now that Bob is in college, his dad tried this on one of their engineering professors, who apparently laughed at the dad and basically told him to frick off. My friends that attend the same school as he say he's a complete loner, because he acts like he's better than anyone else there. While student teaching, my cooperating teacher had me completely take over parent-teacher conferences. One of my students came in with his mom, dad, and sister. Right away I could tell mom was P. Her son didn't attend my class until 3 weeks into the semester, had only turned in one assignment, and rightfully had a very low F. The kid was actually a good kid and very respectful to me. Mom, however, had very little respect for me. She blamed Emmy for his poor grade, telling me I need to remind him daily of due dates, despite them being written on the board, tweeting my students reminders, and maintaining a blog with all assignments. She then told me I should have been giving her daily updates via email or phone call of his progress. The real kicker was when she said she needed me to write in his planner every day, due dates, notes home, etc. The student was 18 years old. She also wanted me to give him extensions for assignments so she could help him with them so she could assure he received a good grade. The department policy accepts no late assignments unless outlined in a 504 plan. When I told her no, she threatened to go to my superior. At that point I called my cooperating teacher over and he said he stood behind my decision and so would his higher ups. Basically she wanted me to be a helicopter teacher because she couldn't hover while he was at school. Also, the kid was so embarrassed by the whole ordeal that he apologized at school the next day and picked up the slack the rest of the semester. I had this happen while I was student teaching as well, except the student was a little younger. They went and got a 504 plan for ADHD. The student was falling asleep in my class, and thinking back now likely stoned. That was retroactive, so he could turn in any assignments from the whole semester and get full credit. Surprise surprise. He didn't turn anything in and still failed. I don't know if this technically applies, but I had a soldier that refused to show up for morning formation at least 3 times a week. We would go to his barracks room and have to force him to come to work. Needless to say, we started chapter paperwork to get him out of the army. He had his mom call and talk to my commander and try to get them to let him stay. Didn't work. I once worked in a kids gym. It's not a good weather area, so we have private gyms with classes for kids of varying ages. We also have open gym time, which we bring out slides, balls, swings etc. to play on. Most parents either follow their kids around playing with them or just let the kid roam free. There is always at least 1 or 2 staff members in the gym. Cue crazy mom. She is about to burst pregnant and has 3 daughters. Spends the entire time directing all 3 kids. Jessica, go do the slide now. Sally, follow your sister on the curvy path. Brandy, catch the ball. Directing 3 individual kids at play at all times while pregnant enough to make an elephant blush was scary as heck to watch. Oh, and her husband has had his spine removed. She directs his every action too. She literally controls every movement of 5 different souls now. Freaking creepy. I bet she'd rock at StarCraft. Figured I would give a perspective as a helicoptered child. My mom tried to helicopter the crap out of me when I was growing up. She was always getting in contact with my teachers, getting them to send me weekly reports of my grades. She would even drive up to the school if my progress reports weren't mailed home in time. In high school they mailed progress reports and report cards. She also kept pestering the boss of my older brother's old job to get me a job. My mother got me a freaking job. A horrible dry cleaner in Detroit. I knew exactly what she was doing the whole time, but there was nothing I could do to prevent it. I wised up and realized I had a choice as to what I could control, and I left and joined the military so I could have my own life. Best choice ever. I do love my mom, but Jesus, she was overbearing. Reading this makes it seem like I'm bashing my mom. My mom has still done a lot for me and I love her very much. I just feel like I need to include this edit to make myself feel better. Haha. Throwaway because I actually like my job. I'm an admissions officer at a fairly great small southern law school. So my youngest client is going to be 22-ish. And yet, oh god, I have so many stories. Most recently I had a 24-year-old whose application had her dad's email address, not her own, because he was handling everything for her. This happens way too often. Now, I don't have a problem with your parents being all up in your financial aid affairs, cause chances are good they're helping to foot the bill. But if I ask you in for an interview, don't you ever assume your parents should sit in with you. If it's a nice, light convo where I just want you to know more about the school, I'll ask them in too. But if I'm trying to decide whether or not to let you in, then your goofy but Lily Pulitzer wearing mother answering all my questions is not going to help your case. And for the love of everything holy, your parents should not come to orientation or any of the social functions associated with it. No, bad lawyer larvae. Ah, so that's how lawyers are spawned, from larvae. I'd like to provide a POV from the daughter of a helicopter parent if I may, and my mom is a teacher so I get partial credit. Growing up with a helicopter parent is heck on earth. My mom would argue with my teachers and embarrass me in front of my friends by being absurdly overprotective. Sleepovers were always had at our house because she didn't trust my friends' dads to not be diddlers, and I was only allowed to ride my bike within sight of our house. One time I went to a friend's house when I was 12 and she told her parents to, under no circumstances, let me play outside because she was afraid someone would snatch me. It even carried on into high school. I remember one incident quite vividly. My best friend found a little tabby kitten on the school's front yard and we were all sitting there playing with it after school while we waited for my mom to pick us up. I wasn't allowed to ride the bus. My mom pulled up and her door flew open. She ran up to us and screamed, "You keep that filthy animal away from my little girl. She could get sick." I was 16. I wanted to die. It was so humiliating. I resented my mom for a long time for raising me to be dependent on her and afraid of everything. I'm already on the autism spectrum, and she made it way worse by trying to protect me from the whole world. I was 15 before I could overcome my shyness enough to order for myself in restaurants. It was ridiculous. Helicoptering is nothing but harmful. Not a teacher, but I knew a kid who was extremely socially inept, and his mother applied to be a lunch roommate to make sure he wasn't being picked on. She did him a lot more harm than good by being there. I used to manage a restaurant. We had a very regular customer come in right before summer began asking if we were hiring. She was asking for her son. This happened a lot so I always told them to send their kids in for an application if they wanted a job. My boss however did not want to offend our regular customer so she gave this woman an application and then hired the lady's son without interviewing him or meeting him face to face. So summer starts and this kid comes to his first day of work. I could tell he did not want to be there. He in fact had another job. He asked for a ton of time off to visit colleges and for his family vacation. In the end he was just never available, and when he was at work his mind was somewhere else. I ended up being the lucky one to fire him. It was more of a mutual understanding that he never wanted the job to begin with and was too busy. He seemed relieved. Moms, don't do that crap. I went to college with a girl who was pretty entitled. Our school was 11 hours away from where she lived but her mom made the trek to come clean her dorm for her, including the condom wrappers. It's a relief to me that this person was using birth control. I used to teach swimming lessons and there was this mom that everyone hated. All the teachers had her kid at least once. One time I was the lifeguard on duty and she came up to me and started narrating her kid's lesson to me and I'm like, trying to guard the pool, so I politely walk away. 5 minutes later she runs over to me holding her iPhone trying to show me a video of her kid swimming 5 meters in the pool. I gaped at her. She might have actually been a bit crazy. I'm not a teacher. Surprise. But I'm good friends with my daughter's preschool teacher and so we often hang out with her kids and ours. This summer we went to the pool and of course, the kids were all playing together. A mix of 4-6-year-olds equals mayhem, but in a fun way. All except for this one little girl. Her mom told her to stay away from the other dirty kids and not talk to them. We talked to the mom and assured her our kids don't have any weird diseases and her daughter is very welcome to come have fun, but nope. All other kids are dirty and will corrupt her child. Her words. So this poor little girl sat on the side of the pool for a few hours and watched all the other kids playing and having fun. She looked positively miserable and will grow up resenting her mother for not allowing her to have a normal childhood. It's sad to watch, and it upset our kids as well. During the first day orientation at college, I had to ask 2 parents to leave. The room was packed and we only had enough seats for the students themselves. When I asked them to leave, they looked around and the mother said, "There are still seats available. We will move when they are full." A few minutes later, all of the seats were taken. 2 students were standing, looking around for empty seats. I had to ask the parents to give their seats up. I thought it was over, but I looked back and the parents were standing against the back wall. I went up to them and finally said, "Today is for students only. There is a lounge where you can get coffee and hang around if you want to wait, but we will be here for 2 hours. The mother said, "That's okay, we will stay." I finally had to go get my boss to convince them to leave. Just a note, this student did not have any learning disabilities or physical difficulties. They were actually quite smart and talented, but it took several weeks for them to break out of their shell. They were always asking me if they could go to the washroom, and things like that. It was a tough transition, made even more difficult by helicopter parents. One of my general psych students at a 4-year state university missed a final. Her mom called me to complain and to request a makeup exam. I informed her that her daughter could reschedule with me directly. We scheduled a makeup which she was also a no-show for. Her mom proceeded to call my office, the department chair, and my stupid graduate student moved to list your cell in the college directory to complain about how unfair I was being. I decided to not call her back and instead had my mom call her mom to discuss. She never called again and her daughter failed the class. The primary school I went to was pretty renowned for having a few rich kids in it. One time there was a car crash on the main road to the school, so there was a terrific traffic jam. Anyway, this one kid's parents, who were particularly minted, just popped their boy in their private helicopter which took him to the school's rugby pitch. So this helicopter lands on the school's playing fields, which by the way are filled with kids playing around before school starts, and this boy just jumps out with his school bag while the helicopter flies off. TLDR, helicopters were banned as a mode of transportation to my primary school. I misread the question. I thought it was a bit of an odd one. The true meaning of helicopter parents. Applause. Not a teacher, but I am in trade school and one guy's mom came in to yell at one of the instructors about him getting a 0 on a midterm because he did not show up. Poor kid doesn't stand a chance. We currently have a bet on when he drops out. He is 22. I TA'd a class for a couple years, and I had one poor kid come to my office hours after the first week and give me a second email address with which to communicate with him because his father monitored his main school email. The kid wasn't a particularly gifted student in the subject of my course, but definitely tried hard and never missed a class or assignment. He ended up dropping the class and insinuated to me his dad caught him taking an unnecessary elective, a 101 level natural science, instead of sticking strictly to his course of study, music composition. So much for encouraging kids to be well-rounded. Really bummed me out because he was one of the few actually enthusiastic students in my classes, and those types make teaching so much easier and more enjoyable. Not a teacher. Typical. But I was in a freshman dorm and there was a girl who had grown up overly sheltered by her super Asian, super religious parents. She constantly made noise complaints even at 9 PM. But the kicker was when there was a boy, gasp, in her suite that had been invited over by one of her suitormates. The girl came downstairs to talk to me about how disturbed she was, and when I told her that she is an adult and she needed to handle talking to her suitormates herself, she promptly left, then came back with her mother on the phone demanding to speak to me. I endured half an hour of ranting and raving about how her precious baby shouldn't be subjected to these kinds of conditions and that she would have me fired. Mind you, this girl was 19 and should have been more than capable of handling things herself. The same girl also wore whatever her mother told her to wear over the phone. Cargo pants, loose common t-shirts, and a boonie hat does not do wonders for anyone. Mom, you're going to have to call administration. There is nothing I can do to resolve your issue. Click. My mom tried to be the helicopter parent. She wasn't great at that, but tried. It was bad enough it crippled me in junior and high school, there were many things I didn't know how to do because I was more afraid to do it on my own without being dependent. I quickly grew out of it sophomore/junior year. Thank God. But let's see. I didn't know how to get a summer job. I was too afraid to do extracurricular activities. I was extremely shy for a while there. A lot of school functions and simple classwork I didn't do because doing it on my own was difficult. Though she never did it for me. More, she told me to do it but tried to do everything else for me. She got me a girlfriend. That was awkward when I learned she was my girlfriend in Truth or Dare. Blah blah blah. My brother won't do anything for himself because she tries to do it for him and buys him what he wants. She got me a girlfriend. That was awkward when I learned she was my girlfriend in Truth or Dare. Okay, we need some backstory on this. A guy who works for me is 28 years old. He recently got a serious DUI. He blew .27 after rear-ending someone. He has to keep me in the loop on his court dates, etc. Whenever I ask him what is going on with his case, he has to call his father who fills him in on the details. His father has handled everything for him from hiring the lawyer to setting up hearings and alcohol counseling. He sends him calendar appointments when to show up and where. Also, his father just bought him a car and a house, and his mother brings his lunch to work some days. I mean, if my dad's in the area he'll bring me lunch and we'll eat together, but my parents would frick my butt with a cheese grater if I got a DUI. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.